In the last lessons, we already discussed about the model in which only two goods are produced and consumed. But to move closer to the reality, it is necessary for us to understand how comparative advantage functions in a model with a larger number of goods. So in test of two products, we will consider n different goods in this model. And we have the notation I belongs to 1 to n. So we have n potentially traded products. And the same as before, we have ALI is the home's unit label requirement for good I. And ALI star is the foreign unit label requirement for good I. Sorry, here it should be I, small I. Okay. To remind you, so for example, we need 4 hours to produce 1 pound cheese. So ALI will equal to 4 hours. Okay. Or for example, in a foreign country, we need 2 hours to produce 1 pound cheese. So ALI star will be equal to 2 hours. And we assume that we arrange the products from 1 to n, so that the lower the number, the lower the ratio of home's unit label requirement to foreign's. So here we have the ratio of home's unit label requirement to foreign's of the product 1 is smaller than product 2 and smaller to the product 3. So we have the ratio of home's unit label requirement to foreign's of the product 1 is the smallest, and a product n is the highest. Please remember this so that you can understand. You can take the example later. Okay. So if home country produce I, then the wage in home is equal to PIs divided by ALIs. PIs is the price of product I, and ALI is the unit label requirement for product I in home country. If foreign country produce I, then the wage in foreign countries is equal to the price of product I in foreign country divided by the unit label requirement of product I in foreign country. Okay. So for example, here we have P cheese is equal to $7, and we need 2 hours to produce 1 pound cheese. So we have the weight here is 3.5 dollars. Okay. So that's how you calculate the wage. And in the free trade equilibrium, the price of product I in home country is equal to the price of the product I in foreign country, and is equal to the trade price of the product I. Okay. So it will be cheaper to produce the good in foreigner if the price of product I in home country is higher than the price of product I in foreign countries. right? For example, in this case, the price of cheese is 7, and in foreign country the price is, let's say, $5. So if the PC star is less than PC 5 less than 7, so it's cheaper to produce cheese in foreign country, and it is equivalent to the relative unit labor requirement of product I in foreign country to home country, less than the relative wage in home country to foreign country. And we can have the conclusion that for any goods that have the relative unit relative unit labor requirement for product I in foreign country to home country is larger than the relative wage in home country to foreign country will be produced in home. And for any goods that the ratio, or this one we call it relative unit labor requirement for I in foreign country to home country less than the relative wage in home country to foreign country will be produced in foreign. So go back this example. We have uh, okay, let me finish this one. So for cheese we need 2 hours to produce cheese in home country, and the wage is 3.5 and the price is $7. And in foreign country we have, let's say we need will be cheaper, right? Foreign will be cheaper, so let's say 1 hour, so the wage will be $5. Okay, so here we check the ratio between ALC star divided by ALC. So we have is 1 divided by 2. How about the wage? The wage is 3.5 divided by 5. So we have, this one is larger than this, right? 1.5, 2. Okay, so we have W divided by W stars is larger than ALI star divided by the ALI. So in this case, we can have the conclusion that cheese will be produced in foreign. Okay, so which country produce which goods will depend on the ratio of home and foreign wage rates. Let's look at this example. Let's say we consider the good 7. So we have the relative unit labor requirement of the product 7 in foreign country to home country is larger than the relative wage in home country to foreign country. So we will conclude that the good 7 will be introduced in home country. Okay, and as we assume here, we have an assumption here, so we have a star L7 divided by a L7. We had assumption here that uh, L star L1 a L1 star divided by a L1 is larger than 2, larger than 3, and blah blah larger than product 7, the relative wage. From here we can conclude this one. So from here, the lower the number, the lower the ratio of home unit labor requirement to foreign. So for this, the lower the number, the higher the ratio of foreign unit labor requirement to homes. Okay, so here we will have AL1 star divided by AL1 will larger than 2, blah blah, and larger than 7. So it means the relative unit labor requirement in home country, in foreign country for product 1, 2, or 3, or 6 to home country will be larger than the definitely larger than the relative wage in home country to foreign country. So we have conclusion that the goods 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 will be produced in home, and the goods 8 to N will be produced in foreign. Okay, so for example, I have the home wage rate is 5 times that of foreign. The relative wage rate in home country to foreign is equal to 5. So we can see here 5. So we can conclude that home will produce apples and banana because W are the relative wage. Let's say banana, relative wage of banana in home of a wage rate in home country to foreign is 5 and is less than the relative unit labor requirement in foreign to home of apple. That's why we have this our home will produce apple and banana, and F foreign will produce caviar, dates, and enchiladas. How about if the relative wage in home country to foreign country reduced to 3? Not 5 anymore, but 3. So we see here 3. So we will conclude that the home country will produce apple, banana, and caviar, and dates and enchiladas will be produced in foreign country. So based on the relative wage in home to foreign country, we can determine what kind product will be produced in which country. So to make those calculations, we have simply assumed that the relative wage rate is 3 or 5. But how we can calculate? Sorry. How can we calculate the real uh, wage rate, the real relative wage rate? So to determine the relative wage, we have to look behind the relative demand of goods to the implied relative demand for labors. So what is demand of goods and relative demand for labor? That one is not direct demand on the part of customers, but that one is the derived demand result from the demand for goods produced with each country's label. If the relative wage in home country to foreign country increase, the relative derived demand for home labor will increase. Why? Because when the relative wage rate in home country to foreign country increase, the home labor will become more expensive, right? Compared to the foreign labor. So if the home labor become more expensive, of course the goods produced in home country will become more expensive. The good also more expensive. And when the price increase, of course the demand will decrease. So the word demand for this good produced in home will decrease. And the second reason is when the home wage increase, fewer goods will be produced in home and they will be produced in foreign country instead. So it will reduce the demand for home labor because most of the products will be produced in foreign country and less products will be produced in home. So of course the demand for labor will decrease. Okay. We can illustrate the determination of relative wage in this figure. And as we can see, the RS is the gross supply of home labor relative to the foreign labor. And we can determine this by the relative size of homes and foreign labor force. That is L divided by L star. We assume that the number of person hours available in each country does not vary with the wage. The relative wage has no effect on the relative labor supply. That's why RS is a vertical line, because the relative quantity of labor is not related, like has no effect on the relative wage rate. So it's a vertical line. And we can see RD here is the work demand for home labors relative to its demand to foreign labor. And we can see it's a step line like this. So how can we have a step line like this? So we can see when the relative wage rate of home country to foreign country equal to 10, that is equal to the relative home productivity advantage. Both, let me write here, W divided by star equal to Li ALI. So it means that the price produced in the price in home country will be equal to the price in foreign country. So both home and foreign country will produce apple. That's why it have a flat shape like this. And here this is 1 divided by 10. When the relative wage rate less than ALI's AI. So when the relative wage in home country to relative country less than the unit level requirement in foreign country to their home country for product apple. Apple will be produced in home country. Right, that's why the uh, relative demand for labor in home country will increase. Okay, it increase. Please look at this side. So when the relative wage rate decrease, the relative demand for labor in home country will increase. And at this point, that is 1 divided by 8. At this point, when the relative wage rate is equal to the relative home productivity advantage for banana, the home will start to produce banana. And also in this line, both when it's equal to the relative wage rate equal to 8, equal to the relative home productivity advantage in foreign country to home country, both foreign country and home country will produce banana. Okay, and from here to here, it's when the in between this one. So here home will produce when the relative okay, this one, when the relative wage in home country to foreign country is less than 10. Okay, less than 10. So in this area, home will produce, I change the color, home will produce apple and foreign will produce banana, caviar, dates, and enchiladas. And when it's equal to the relative wage rate equal to 8, home will start producing bananas. And in this area, both home and foreign country produce banana. And from here to here again, when the relative wage rate is less than 8 and larger than 4, home will produce apple and banana. and foreign will produce caviar, dates, and enchiladas. So on and so forth. We can determine when home will produce what products. And since we assume that our relative quantity of labor is here, so we can determine that home will produce apple, banana, and caviar, and dates are foreign country will produce dates and enchiladas. How if the word supply line change to this one? So we have conclusion that home will produce apple, banana, and caviar, and foreign country will produce caviar, dates, and enchiladas. How if it change here? So we have conclusion that home country will produce apple, bananas, and foreign country will produce caviar, dates, and enchiladas. Enchiladas. Okay. So we have if the relative wage rate is larger than 10 in this area, the relative quantity of labor is equal to 0. Okay. And those conclusions I already presented to you earlier. You can read it here more. Like when the relative wage rate is equal to 10, then apple could be produced in either home or foreign country. Okay. So we can determine the equilibrium relative wage rate. That is the intersection between the supply line and the demand line of labor in home country. Assume that the I products, the product I is produced in home country, and product J is produced in foreign country. So if the relative wage rate decrease, the relative price of product I to product J will decrease. Okay, because I is produced in home and J is produced in foreign. And the demand of I, the relative demand of product I to product J is increased. So the relative uh, the relative labor of I will increase. Okay. So let me give you an example. For example, at first, the relative wage is 10, then they decrease to 8. Let's say apple is produced. I will change the RS line to here, the supply. So apple will be introduced in home country, banana and the rest of other products are produced in foreign. So at first the relative wage in home to foreign is 10. So if it's increased to 8, what will happen? If it decrease, it means that the price of apple compared to banana will decrease, right? The price of apple, but the price of banana will decrease. So since the price of apple decrease, so the relative demand for apple will increase because the price is cheaper, will increase. So when it's increased, when the demand for relative demand for apple increase, so the relative labor for producing apple will increase. Okay, apple compared to banana. So far we just consider the international trade based on the relative demand, relative wage rate. However, we didn't consider the transportation cost. And you know that in the reality, transportation cost is always exists, right? So to come closer to the reality, we should add the transportation cost into our model. So we assume that it costs T% of the price of a good to ship one unit from one country to other country. And the good I is if the good I is produced in home, it sells for the price PI equal to the uh, wage times the time that they need to produce the product I in home, and can be imported at the price PI stars in foreign, that is equal to the PI in home times the transportation cost percent is equal plus T, because the transport costs are cost T% the price of good. They import the product I at the price PI star to cover the transportation cost. So if the price that the price of the foreign to sell the product I, if they produce it in foreign country less than the imported price, they will prefer producing product I instead of importing it, right? Because the original price then plus with the transport cost is larger than the price that they produce in their country. They will not import anymore. They will prefer producing it by themselves, right? And if the price in foreign country is less than the import price from home country, and the price of the product produced in home country is less than the imported product from foreign country, then the good I will be produced in both home and foreign country. So they will prefer producing that product by themselves if the price they produce that product in their country is less than the imported price. And based on that, we have the equivalent is the relative unit labor requirement for product I in foreign country is less than the relative wage in home country to foreign country times the percentage of transportation cost, and is larger than the wage of the relative wage of in home country to foreign country times the reverse of the percent. So if this one happen, the good I will be produced in both home and foreign country. If the transportation cost T increase, the goods will become non-traded. So if the transportation cost increase, there are more goods will become non-traded. So what is non-traded products? Let's see this example. We need 6 hours to produce days products. And we in home country, and we need 12 hours to produce days in foreign country. So we can calculate the relative wage in home country is equal to this is what we have, and we have the relative home wage in home country to foreign country is 3, and we see the relative wage in home countries to foreign country is larger than the relative unit labor requirement for days in foreign country to home country. So if we don't consider the transportation cost, date will be produced in foreign country, and home will import dates from foreign. Okay, that is when we don't consider transport cost. We learned it before. Now if we consider the transportation cost, and we assume that the transportation cost is equal to 4 hours, and the importing cost is equal to 8 hours of home country. Maybe some student will ask me why the importing cost or the transportation cost we calculate in hour but not dollars. Of course we can transfer it to dollars, like we times with the wage. Okay, but here we consider the productivity of the labor. That's why we use hours to be our unit. So since the transportation cost will be 4 hours, so we have the total cost of importing days from foreign countries 8 hours, and this one is larger than 6 hours. So if the home country produce dates by themselves, they only need 6 hours, but if they import from foreign, they need 8 hours of home labors. So they will produce date instead of importing from foreign, and this will become the non-traded goods. So what non-traded good? That is the product the country will produce for itself, or we call it non-traded goods. So what will happen when we consider what we will do with the appearance of non-traded goods? Because it's not everything will be traded. So we consider there is a set of traded goods from 1 to n, and they need ALI hours to produce their product I, and we have K is equal to 1 to capital K of non-traded goods. So now we consider two different goods. The first one is non-traded and the second one is traded. And for non-traded good, we need ALK hours to produce the product K. And these goods must be produced in each country where they are consumed. They cannot be imported or exported. Okay. So given that all the traded goods will be traded at the price PIT, and we assume that we consider a small open economy, and the country will choose to produce only the good with the highest wage, and we can with the highest ratio between the price and the unit labor requirement, and this one is the wage, right? And so we can determine the wage is equal to this ratio, and all other traded goods can be imported at a lower price than their production cost. And we can see the price of traded goods are fixed, and it does not depend on the local wage. However, the price of non-traded goods (PK) can adjust in each country to those wage. So since the non-traded goods must be produced in each country, they cannot be imported. So the price must adjust to country wage. That is, PK is equal to the wage times the unit labor requirement for producing product K. And since in the last slide we can calculate the wage based on the international based on the traded price divided by the unit labor requirement for the traded goods, we can have the price of the non-traded good is equal to the traded price of traded goods times the relative unit labor requirement for non-traded good to traded goods. So we can see the price of non-traded goods are tied to the price of the traded goods and their relative productivities. So far we already see how two country trade, what kind of product they trade, and when they will trade. When we consider also non-traded goods and transportation cost. In the next video, I will have you solve some numerical examples, so that you can understand more how to determine the trading. Thank you.